anti-hunters. They may verbally assault us. They may clog up our news feeds. They may threaten your life, but the one thing they will not do is they will not take our meat! Ah!
Wait.
What?
You do realize that Braveheart wasn't Irish, right?
Close enough! Welcome to Breaking Wild. In lieu of St. Paddy's Day, we're going to be creating for you an Irish hearty venison stew. So unbuckle your pants and get ready for a good time. So now that I'm back to normal, for you all who are going to be staying home or maybe going over to a friend's house or even hosting a party, I'm going to show you guys how to create a hearty, earthy venison stew, Irish style, that'll feed lots of people and get them bellies nice and full. So come on over here. I want to show you all what we're going to do first. What I've got is I've got just over a pound, about a pound, pound and a half of some chunked up venison rear quarter meat, the sirloin, if you would say. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump this straight into the pot. Then I've got about a quarter cup of white flour, and I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top, and we're going to roll it in the flour to get it nice and coated for the stew. Now that you got your meat in here, we roll it in a little bit of flour, it's time to put in all of our veggies. So what I've got first is I've got 4 stalks of carrots and 4 stalks of celery that are been chunked up into nice, hearty, big chunks of vegetables, and I'm just going to dump them right on top of the meat here. Then after that, guys, real simple, 1 whole sweet onion chunked up. That's the great thing about stew, is it doesn't have to be pretty. Just chop stuff up, chop it up, chunk it up, however you want to do it. It's going to taste great either way. Then we've got 6 red potatoes chunked up. Boom! And then we've got 1 carton of white mushrooms. All right. And those may look a little big, but as this thing cooks down, those are going to shrink up pretty good. Okay, so now that I've got all of my ingredients, I've got my vegetables and my meat, everything's in the crock pot. I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it to the side, and then we're going to start making, let me get this out of the way. We're going to start making our soup or our broth for everything to cook into. And it's real easy. It's really delicious too. We're going to start off real quick with 1 cup of beef stock. And then to throw some Irish style into this, we've got 1 cup of Guinness Original Draft. That's really going to add some really coffee, earthy, delicious heartiness to our stock. All right, so then it's time to season this bad boy up. We got a tablespoon of minced garlic. We'll dump that in. We've got a half of a teaspoon of thyme. Really gonna put that earthy tone into it. We've got 3/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper. And then we've got 1 whole teaspoon of salt. Gonna bring in 2 tablespoons of finely chopped parsley, fresh parsley, add you. And then we've got a tablespoon of Worcestershire. Grab our whisk and just whisk all this together. Okay, so that's super simple right there. Now, I'll bring this, set this to the side, bring this back over so you can see it. And what we're gonna do, we'll just take all of this goodness and we're going to pour it over the top of our stew. Okay, so our last ingredient we have here is I've got 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And this is gonna give this stew a real bold flavor, so don't leave this out. We'll just dump that in there, we'll scoop it out. There. Okay, then we'll turn all this over. Just kind of move it around, make sure everything's kind of dispersed pretty good. Get all that paste I just wiped off the side off there. All right, now if you roll that over a little bit, we're going to get our last little ingredient for this process. It is a bay leaf. And you may be thinking to yourself, what's one little leaf gonna do? I'm telling you, this little guy right here is really gonna pop this stew open with some great flavors. When you're making a stew, bay leaves, one bay leaf, we're gonna drop it in there. They always add some flavor to it. But don't forget to take this bad boy out before you eat your stew. You don't wanna be chewing on that. Also, I've got some cornstarch here. You may have already seen it as we're doing our process. Just hold your horses because we're gonna be using this towards the end of the stew process. Yeah, baby, I'll tell you what, I love stew. There's so many flavors that just jump out of this thing, and I cannot wait for all this to start meddling together so I can eat it. But first, we gotta cook it. So I'm gonna cap it off, and then we're gonna turn this bad boy up to high for about 4.5 hours. Once we hit that 4.5 hour mark, that's when we're gonna bring in the next step, which is our cornstarch. So stick around, and we'll get this sucker going. All right, guys, so we've been cooking for about 4.5 hours now, and I remember I told you to hang tight because we had one last step left before we could eat our venison Irish stew. Now, you don't want to have a watery old stew. You want to have a thick, meaty, hearty stew, and one way to do that is with the cornstarch we talked about earlier. Cornstarch has twice the thickening power of a flour, so this is why we use less cornstarch and still get that thickness we want out of our stew. So I've got about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch right here, and then I'm gonna get about a cup and a half of the broth out of our stew right here from the slow cooker. So we're gonna slowly open this up. Boom, baby. And then we're just gonna get in here. One more small one. So that's about a cup and a half of the broth out of the crock pot itself. I'm just gonna take this cornstarch, I'm going to sprinkle it in a little bit at a time, do a little bit, whisk it up. You wanna whisk it until it is all smooth. All right, so now that we've gotten this all pretty well smoothed out, you can see how it looks, that creamy look to it. And we're just gonna pour this right back in on top of our stew. And then we're gonna get our spoon and just kind of move it around. Get it all mixed in there. Whew, man, that smells so good. Okay, so now we got that all stirred back up. Let's cap it, and we're gonna let this cook for about 30 minutes to an hour longer, and then we're ready to dig in. So hang out just a little bit more. We'll get to start eating the stew. All right, guys, so the stew is all done. I went ahead and spooned some out into a bowl, and I let it sit for a little bit because it was just too daggum hot coming out of the crock pot there. It smells great. Everything is just melded together really well, and I can't wait to try our Irish venison stew in lieu of St. Patty's Day. So I'm gonna make sure I get me some potato and some venison, some carrot. Oh, get up there, sucker. Holy smokes. It's so good. It's so good. It's hearty. It's rich, and you taste the flavors just go through one at a time. Really good. Guys, if you like what you see here, if you like this recipe, you can find it, the written recipe, on my website, homecookinghunter.com. Be sure to subscribe to Breaking Wild on YouTube, and also you can follow us on Instagram at Breaking Wild TV. Thank you so much for being here with Breaking Wild. I'm the Home Cooking Hunter, and we'll see you next time. Anti-hunter.
I wasn't on you yet.
Oh. Okay, ready?
Yeah.